J.D. Vance may have just triggered a Republican civil war, and I just have to wonder, can that racist Care Bear do anything right? Seriously. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. J.D. Vance, concurrent with his entering the vice presidency, has become one of the most hated men in America, disliked by Democrats or anyone else with good taste, and also loathed by a good deal of Republicans. That's come to a head following an American attack on a boat in the Caribbean originating from Venezuela. Vance and Donald Trump claim it was carrying drugs, but questions linger. Here's a reminder.
Tonight, the White House releasing this dramatic video of the U.S. blowing up a boat in the southern Caribbean. President Trump says it was carrying drugs from Venezuela and that the strike killed 11 members of the notorious gang Tren de Aragua, or TDA.
We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And these came out of Venezuela. We took it out.
Last month, the Pentagon deployed 3 guided missile destroyers to international waters near Venezuela after President Trump designated several drug cartels, as well as TDA, foreign terrorist organizations.
Despite administration assurances that the boat was carrying drugs, major questions remain, particularly because the White House has yet to provide any evidence to support their claims. Vance took to social media yesterday to defend the attack against Republicans who slammed the move for a lack of evidence or due process. It could, under international law, constitute a war crime. And now that move is causing a schism in the Republican Party. Morning Joe breaks it all down. Now, be warned, this is a very long clip. You'll want to watch the entire thing to understand the full situation and why Vance may have just cut his own throat, at least politically speaking.
Vice President J.D. Vance posted the following message on social media, quote, "Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military." He followed that by writing, quote, "Democrats, let's send your kids to die in Russia. Republicans, actually, let's protect our people from the scum of the earth." When another user suggested that assassinations without due process amount to war crimes, Vance wrote back, quote, "I don't give a blank what you call it." That's when Republican Senator Rand Paul jumped in, writing, "JD, I don't give a blank Vance says killing people he accuses of a crime is the highest and best use of the military. Did he ever read To Kill a Mockingbird? Did he ever wonder what might happen if the accused were immediately executed without trial or representation? What a despicable and thoughtless sentiment it is to glorify killing someone without a trial." Joe, that's a little bit of an interesting back and forth between J.D. Vance and Rand Paul.
Yeah, it's 2 Republicans. One Republican is celebrating blowing things out of the water, killing people without a trial. And, of course, he's also part of the same administration that swore they would only send hardened criminals to a maximum security prison in El Salvador. And yet Axios and multiple other outlets reported that the administration got that wrong time and time again. The people that they sent to El Salvador, up to 75, 80% were sent with no criminal record in the United States or across the globe. So again, the shoot first, ask questions later attack. Obviously, David Ignatius, with all the mistakes this administration has made with their approach to whether it's deporting migrants or other things. It is, Rand Paul obviously brings up a very important point, a chilling point, and on a much larger level, to have a vice president of the United States trying to just provoke on X, talking about, oh, they want to send your kids to Russia to die. Nobody wants to send their kids to Russia to die. That's just a lie. It's just an absolute total lie. And yet that's somehow his justification for the celebration of using the military to blow up people in a boat without any due process whatsoever.
So good for Rand Paul for calling this out directly and bluntly. What many national security lawyers are asking is whether the president has any foundation in law for this attack. It appears to have been a drone or helicopter attack on a boat carrying what appear to have been drug smugglers who were associated with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. I'm sure they're, terrible people doing despicable crimes, but that's not what our military is for. We have specific procedures for enforcing laws against smuggling drugs into the United States. We are not at war with these drug cartels, as Vice President Vance suggests. And you can't make up a legal rationale for that on the spot just because you think they're bad people. The Coast Guard is charged with this responsibility. If the president wants to begin to use lethal force against drug smugglers, he should go to Congress. He should find a way to authorize it legally. But there's a question deeper here, Joe, I think, which is, what's the military's responsibility to push back? Our military is supposed to obey lawful orders. But that doesn't mean that they're exempt from thinking carefully, is this a lawful order that I've been given? Whoever was told to fire on this boat carrying the drug smugglers needs to have asked, am I being given a lawful order by the commander-in-chief? And we're at the point where we really need to insist that as part of our country, the way our country works, the military will obey the president, obey the commander-in-chief, but will ask the appropriate questions, as Rand Paul did, as a senator bravely did. And I think we're going to have a serious debate now about what are the limits of the president's authority to use force. You can't just say, I'm going after this. You need legal authority.
Yeah, and of course, Jonathan O'Meara, the reason why Rand Paul started his tweet, for the uninitiated, if you're just looking at that tweet, he called him JD, quote, I don't give a shit, quote, Vance, is, again, Vance's response. The Vice President of the United States' response to somebody suggesting that it might be a war crime. And JD Vance's response was, quote, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and the vice president seems to view his role as just trash talker. He goes on, social media all the time and picks fights with, in this case, a fellow Republican, but journalists and others. And maybe that speaks to the limits of the powers of the office. But JD Vance, it's not just. It's childish, but also there are real concerns, as David just said, about the legality of this strike. And I did some reporting on this last week as well. And this is a changing role for the United States military, where it's fighting crime, if you will. These are drug smugglers, allegedly, although there's yet to be evidence produced as to exactly who these people were or what they had. Also, we're seeing the National Guard on the streets of the United States. In Washington for now, and we keep hearing threats about other cities, including the President of the United States, invoking a Vietnam Apocalypse Now reference about sending the U.S. military, now the Department of War, to Chicago in the days ahead. And Mika, I don't think this is going to end anytime soon. As part of our reporting last week on this strike, U.S. officials that we spoke to said that they thought this was a very effective tactic here. They wanted to try something new in terms of combating gangs and drug smuggling. And those are noble causes, of course, but maybe not like this. And they think there's going to be more of this. So we're seeing this posture of more and more U.S. military assets in the Caribbean, potentially targeting gangs, particularly those associated with Venezuela. I wouldn't bet this will be a one-off right here.
We'll be following that. Joe?
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. Targeting gangs, blowing them out of the water because they have decided unilaterally that they were gangs. Just like they decided unilaterally who were dangerous criminals, who were dangerous members of gangs that they shoved onto transport planes and took to a maximum security prison in El Salvador, because apparently these people had committed heinous crimes on the streets of the United States and were gang members. And again, after they get down there, we find out 75, 80, some news sources say up to 90% of the people rounded up off the streets, shoved onto those transport planes, sent down to El Salvador, while judges are telling them to stop because they're not criminals, because they didn't get due process. We find out later that 75, 80, 90% of those people sent down to El Salvador, according to the news reports, were not people in gangs who had committed these crimes that the administration claimed that they did. So now, instead of transporting them, now these alleged gang members are just being killed. Shoot first, and nobody's around to ask questions later, I guess.
So there you have it. It's easy to write off this attack on a small boat carrying less than a dozen people as an anti-terrorist move, but without any proof and without any congressional authorization, the move is illegal. Also, the idea that the military would engage in this attack without any proof or question of its legality is truly disturbing, especially as Trump wants to deploy the military nationwide. And once again, J.D. Vance has proven that he's not the next Trump. He's a man-boobed, smack-talking wimp. As an attack dog, he more resembles a yappy toy poodle than a pit bull, and a poodle would be far more effective as vice president. We'll keep you updated on the fallout from the Venezuela boat bombing, as well as all other major stories coming out of the Taco White House meltdown. This is Occupy Democrats.